My name is Ville and you are watching Will's Hobby Time. This is of course the beautiful 1/72 scale US Navy Swift Mark 1 by Revell. It contains 93 parts and is approximately 21 cm long. The ship's hull is in two different parts and it comes with a decal set for PCF-9, PCF-65 and PCF-103, which served in South Vietnam between 1965 and 1970. Throughout history, the ships have been painted in both dark and light grey, and the instructions contain painting guidelines for both options. Patrol craft fast, also known as Swift Boat, they were all aluminium 50-foot long shallow draft vessels operated by the United States Navy. Initially, they were used to patrol the coastal areas and later for work in the interior waterways as a part of the Brown Waters Navy. The PCFs were designed to interdict Vietcong movement, transport South Vietnamese forces, and insert SEAL teams for counter-insurgency operations during the Vietnam War. The Swift Boat was conceived in a Naval Advisory Group, Military Assistant Command. The staff study titled Naval Craft Requirements in a Counter-Insurgency Environment, which was published on February 1st in 1965. The study noted that counter-insurgency water operations are difficult, demanding and unique. It also pointed out that no concerted effort had been made to develop coin craft specifically suited to perform the many missions needed to combat insurgent activities. The study went on to list characteristics of the ideal patrol craft, including being reliable and sturdy, having a non-wooden hull with screw and rudder protection against groundings, being self-sufficient for 400 to 500 mile patrol, having a speed of 20 to 25 knots, having a small high-resolution radar range of 4 to 6 miles, having reliable long-range communication equipment, compatible with Army and Air Force, being quiet, having armament for limited offense, having sparse berthing with no messing, having a depth meter accurate from 0 to 50 feet, and having a small, powerful searchlight. The study was positively received, and the Navy began to search for sources. Seward Seacraft of Berwick, Louisiana, built water taxis for companies operating oil rigs in the Gulf of Mexico, which appeared nearly ideal. History of Mark 1. The Swift boats were a class of patrol boats operated by the United States Navy during the Vietnam War. They had welded aluminum hulls that were about 50 feet long with 13 feet beam and draft of about 5 feet. The boats were powered by a pair of General Motors Detron marine diesel engines rated at 480 horsepower each, with a design range from 320 nautical miles at 21 knots to about 750 nautical miles at 10 knots. The normal complement for a Swift boat was a 6, an officer in charge, a skipper, a boatswain's mate, a raider/radio man, an engineer, which was engine man, and 2 gunners, quartermaster and gunner's mate. In 1969, the crew was supplemented with a Vietnamese trainee. The first 2 patrol crafts were delivered to the Navy in late August 1965. The original water taxi design had been enhanced with 2 50 caliber M2 Browning machine guns in a turret above a pilot house, and over and under 50 caliber machine guns with 81 mm mortar combination mounted on the rear deck. A mortar ammunition box on the stern, improved habitability equipment such as bunks, refrigerator and freezer, and the sink. The 81 mm combination mortar mounted on the rear deck was the gravity firing mortar as used by the Army and Marine Corps, in which the falling projectiles primarily struck the fixed firing pin at the base of the mortar tube, but unique lanyard firing weapon in which the projectile was still loaded in the muzzle. The gunner could fire at will by the use of the lanyard. The weapon had been tested in the 1950s and discarded as the US Navy lost interest in the system. The United States Coast Guard maintained the gun mortar system before the Navy incorporated into the PCF program. Many boats also mounted a single M60 machine guns in the forward peak tank, just in the front of the forward superstructure. The first original order for 50 boats was followed shortly by an additional order for 54 Mark I. Vietnam War service. The Swift boats were a class of patrol boats operated by the United States Navy during the Vietnam War. They were initially used as coastal patrol craft in Operation Market Time, interdicting seaborne supplies on their way to the Viet Cong and People's Army of Vietnam forces in South Vietnam. However, the design's shallow draft and low freeboard limited their seaworthiness in open waters. These limitations, plus difficulties being encountered in the interior waterways by the smaller, more lightly armed PBRs, led to the incorporation of Swifts to patrol the 1,500 miles of rivers and canals of Vietnam's interior waterways. The first Swift boats arrived in South Vietnam in October 1965. They continued to operate along the Vietnamese coastal areas, but with the start of Admiral Elmo Zumwalt's Sea Lords Riverway interdiction strategy, their primary area of operation soon centered upon the Ca Mau Peninsula and the Mekong Delta area in southern tip of Vietnam. Here they patrolled the waterways and performed special operations, including gunfire support, troop insertion and evacuation, and raids into enemy territory. The Swift boats played a crucial role in the Vietnam War, helping to disrupt enemy supply lines and protect American troops. Operation in Mekong River. Swifts generally operated in teams of 3 to 5, with each boat having an officer in charge, one of whom would also be placed in the overall charge of the mission. Their missions included patrolling the waterways, searching water traffic for the weapons and munitions, transporting South Vietnamese marine units and inserting Navy SEAL teams. When the Swift boats began making forays up the waterways into the interior of the delta, they initially took carriers by surprise, causing them to drop their materials and run off into overgrowth. Occasionally, a short firefight would break out. As it became clear that the control of the waterways was being contested, the Viet Cong developed a number of tactics to challenge the US Navy. They set up ambushes, built obstructions in the canals to create choke points, and began to place mines in the waterways. For the Swifts, coming back downriver was always more dangerous than going upriver. The passage of patrol assured their eventual return, providing an opportunity for the Viet Cong. Ambushes were typically short-lived affairs set up river bend or in a narrow canal that restricted the maneuverability of the boats. A wide variety of portable weapons were used in attacks, including recoilless rifles, P-40 rockets, 50 caliber machine guns, and AK-47s, often fired from the behind earthen bunkered positions. Engagements were brief and violent, with the ambushers often slipping away into undergrowth when the boats located the source of attack and began to concentrate their return fire. When attached, the boats would accelerate out of the hot zone, turn and then return as a group, firing as many of their guns as they could bring to bear. They would power past the ambush point, turn and return to attack again until the ambushers were either killed or slipped away. First losses. The Swift boats were a crucial asset for the United States Navy during the Vietnam War. However, they were not invincible and several were lost during the conflict. The first Swift boat to be lost during the war was PCF-4, which was lost to a mine in 1966. Two boats, PCF-14 and 76, were lost in rough seas at the mouth of the Cua Viet River near the DMZ, and third, 77, was lost in a rescue effort during a monsoon at the mouth of the Perfour River on the approach of the Hue. All three of the boats were lost in 1966. PCF-41 was lost that same year in an ambush when it was hit by fire from 57mm recoilless rifle. Its controls destroyed and coxswain killed. It ran aground at speed. When the crew ran out of ammunition, it had to be abandoned. It was recovered the next day but was too badly damaged to be repaired, so was salvaged instead. PCF-43 was lost to a rocket attack in 1969. Several other Swift boats had been lost to river mines but had been salvaged and either repaired or used for spare parts. Controversy over PCF-19. On the night of June 15, 1968, US Marine aircraft spotters on the ground began reporting unidentified helicopters near the DMZ. First reports stated that 4 helicopters had been detected and were proceeding toward Tiger Islands, just off the North Vietnamese coast, an altitude of 7 to 1,000 feet. These spotters observed the aircraft visually using stair-light scopes and by radar. Over the course of the night, Air Force pilots reported 19 additional helicopter sightings. On the same evening, the guided missile heavy cruiser USS Boston, operating near DMZ, also began reporting helicopter activity in the vicinity of Penhai, Capley, and Tiger Islands. At 0010 on the 16th, an unidentified aircraft fired the 3 rockets or missile at Boston, but none hit the vessel. On June 16, 1968, PCF-19 was struck by 2 missiles in the same area. One missile hit the cabin just below pilot house on the port side, while the other hit the engine room. The boat sank in 4 minutes, killing 4 of its crewmen and badly injuring 2 others. The remaining crew managed to swim free from the sinking craft and cling to life raft until USCSC Point Dume arrived on scene at 0:30. As soon as the survivors were on board, Point Dume departed the scene to drop them off at the Quoc Viet base for medevac to Da Nang. In the meantime, the crew of PCF-12 arrived on the scene at 0:50 to continue the search for survivors. They noticed illumination rounds being fired that were not their own and opted to investigate. The officer in charge ordered the boat to speed to the Quoc Viet River. When PCF-12 was 3 miles from the river mouth, crew members observed 2 sets of aircraft lights of the port and starboard beam, about 300 yards away and 100 meters above the water. The boat commander immediately got on the radio and requested permission to engage the aircraft. At 0:25, PCF-12 received single rocket from seaboard at low trajectory. The rocket passed a couple of feet over the main cabin and exploded in the water 10 feet from the boat. PCF-12 came about, increased its speed and moved away from the kill zone while bringing its 50 caliber guns to bear against the aerial target hovering at 1,000 feet. With lights blinking, the aircraft decreased altitude and turned off its lights. After a short time, PCF-12 stopped to observe the scene and saw aircraft appeared off its beams again with lights on. The boat commander contacted the Marine observer and inquired about their status. The Marines told him that they could not identify the aircraft because they did not have their identification friend or foe EFF transponders turned on. At 0:35, the aircraft near the beach fired 40 to 50 rounds of 50 caliber tracer fire at the PCF. All rounds landed astern. At 02:40, Point Dume, now back on the scene, was attacked by a fixed-wing aircraft, which made 2 attack runs against the vessel. Both the commanding officer of the Point Dume and commander of PCF-12 positively identified aircraft as a jet. The crews of Point Dume and PCF-12 then observed numerous lighted aircraft that appeared to be helicopters in the northern part of the area. These aircraft approached the USS vessels and made firing runs with their lights off. Point Dume received heavy caliber automatic weapons fire from these aircraft and returned fire. PCF-12 also returned fire intermittently for approximately 75 minutes. Neither vessel was damaged in the engagements and there were no personnel injured. On the afternoon of June 16, 1968, Task Unit 710 ordered USS Edson, USS Theodore, A. Chandler and the Royal Australian Navy guided missile destroyer Hobart, MAS Hobart, to conduct a surveillance mission in the vicinity of the Tiger Island to flush away an enemy helicopters or waterborne craft operating from there. The following day, Boston, which was engaged in naval gunfire support mission in the same general area, came under attack from an unidentified jet aircraft. The jet fired 2 missiles at the ship, one of which exploded 200 yards off the port beam and the other close aboard port, sobering the ship with fragments. No sailors were injured and the missiles caused only minor structural damage to the ship. At 3 a.m., while Hobart was searching a 5-mile radius area between the coast and the Tiger Islands with its radar, it detected a single aircraft tracking east. The aircraft was not squawking EFF. An attempt was made to identify the aircraft by visual gun direction personnel on the bridge. 5 minutes later, a missile slammed into the chief's petty officer's mess and nearby spaces, killing 1 sailor and wounding 2 others. The ship took evasive action but temporarily lost radar contact with the aircraft. At 03:16, 2 more missiles hit the ship, destroying the gunner's store and damaging other spaces, including the engineer's workshop, Siemens mess, the missile director room, the RIM 24 Tartar checkout room, and the chief's mess again. This second attack killed an officer and wounded other sailors. As the aircraft turned to make a third pass, one of the ship's gun turrets fired 5 rounds and the aircraft turned and retreated. 14 minutes later, Edson, now at the general quarters, to reports from Hobart about hostile aircraft in the area, came under attack by an unidentified aircraft. Lookouts and sonar confirmed a near miss astern by a missile. Friendly fire incident in Vietnam War. On June 17, 1968, Vice Admiral William F. Pringle, Commander 7th Fleet, appointed Rear Admiral S.H. Moore, Commander Task Group, to conduct an informal investigation into various firing incidents occurring between June 15 and 17. The board determined that Air Force F-4s launched 2 AIM-7E Sparrow missiles on June 17 at 01:15 and one at 03:15 that same day. Fragments of Sparrow missiles complete with serial numbers found on Boston and Hobart confirmed these findings. The case was therefore quite clear with regard to these 2 attacks on June 17. Hobart and Boston had been the victims of friendly fire. The board also investigated the June 16 attacks on Boston and PCF-19 and the attack on Edson on the 17th. From the positions of American vessels and attacking aircraft, the board concluded that Air Force aircraft attacked on Boston and PCF-19 on the 16th and that American aircraft also attacked on Edson on the 17th. But unlike the Boston and Hobart attacks on 17th, however, no physical evidence supported these findings. Later research of the incident with surviving veterans and review of salvage reports from USS Acme, the ship that recovered the bodies and code books from PCF-19 shortly after the attack, found that the rocket entry holes in the hull of PCF-19 were 76.2 mm in size, the size of standard helicopter rocket carried by Soviet-manufactured Mi-4 Hound helicopter and not Sparrow or Sidewinder holes, which would have been larger. To summarize, contrary to the previous belief that US Air Force F-4 fighter had accidentally attached PCF-19, it turned out to be untrue. Based on interviews and findings, it was determined that PCF-19 was attached by Russian-made Mi-4 Hound with fired rockets. First of all, I recommend that you varnish the surface of the model before applying the wash. This helps the wash spread better and makes it easier to remove if the wash fails. Well then, let's start. So first I apply AK Interactive Wash for Gradex Wash to highlight the shapes of the surface. The use is very simple. You dip the brush head in the wash and brush it into seams of the raised objects, such as hatches, etc. Then you wait 20 to 30 seconds and then wipe off the excess with white spirit solvent. It's that easy. And then just repeat until the result pleases you. Start by painting small dots on the side of the ship, but don't paint too large area at once. There is no need to wait for these to dry, and the treatment with white spirit should start fairly soon. So once again, dip the brush head in the white spirit and start fading the white dots and try to mimic the downward flowing salt streaks when it comes to the side of the ship. I recommend that you use photo as model. It makes the work much easier and you get the most realistic result possible. Proceed to the side of the ship and add a few dots little by little and fade with the white spirit until the result pleases you. Salt flows can also be made on the side of the pilot house. Use your imagination here and try to achieve the most irregular pattern possible, so that the result looks as realistic as possible. As a final trick and as cherry on top, I add a little red grime to the bottom of the ship. The steps are practically the same as before, except that there is not as much hurry to remove the washing as in the salt treatment. In the same way, I also recommend using a photo as a model here, so that the result becomes as realistic as possible. But as a tip, I can say that try to paint as irregular streaks as possible from top to bottom. And again, finally fade with white spirit with the two clearly visible red streaks. Of course, patience is required in all stages, but in the end waits the outstanding weathered look. Thank you for watching this far. If you found the video useful, please consider liking the video and maybe even subscribing to my channel. And thank you, and I hope to see you again on the next video.